Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 11. My name is Wayne Harrell, and in this one, we're going to be talking about something really important. I've been getting a bunch of emails as well as messages from people from all over the world, primarily from the United States and Canada, about them being extremely anxious with what's happening in the United States. Now, uh, if you voted for Trump and you expected this, then hey, good for you. But this is not going to be a political app podcast. Like, this is not about politics, this podcast, because look, those are some of those things, as I said before, you can't really control. So in this one, we're going to be diving deep into what's happening right now. What is it you can do about it? And, how to go on about managing your anxiety, right? And like I said, this is not going to be a political rambling or rant. This is not one of those things that I do because it's like really not helpful. So let's get started. Now, uh, you know, I understand what's happening. Let's be real. Like, if you're going out on X, if you're going out on Reddit, if you're going out on news sites, it's chaos right now. There's a trade war going. There is likely a chance that you might lose your job. There is a good chance that inflation might run havoc. Your stocks might go down, or hell, if you are in Europe, in one of those countries, you might be losing your mind with what's happening with the foreign policy, especially American foreign policy. Now, look, it's understandable why you have this anxiety. I would be anxious too if I were in your feet. Now, I live in Southeast Asia, and most of these things don't really affect me. But I've been there, and I understand exactly how you feel. Hell, if you're not anxious in this current environment, then I don't know, like you're built different, right? And if you're, a not warrior, or, just an anxious person in general, this is one of those times where you can lose all your mind. But there are also types of people who thrive in this kind of environment. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, simple. By some people see chaos as an opportunity. More people get rich during a recession than anybody else. Now, not to mention, like, this is one of those times where if nothing changes, we might well into be a stagflation, which is a period of negative or low growth and extremely high inflation, and it's very difficult to come out of it. But during inflation or recession, prices go down. So if you're smart, you might be able to purchase assets like real estates or stock or business or whatever and build wealth. Now, you can't really do that if you don't have a job or if you don't have a good cash flow or decent cash. But there is opportunity during times like these. And it's all about a state of mind, right? But I also understand that most people won't have that kind of state of mind. It's unrealistic to expect people to have that kind of state of mind. It's quite obvious to have anxiety from the election fallout to inflation worries, general vibes of what's going to happen next. And I got to be honest, I have absolutely no freaking clue what is going to happen next, right? What I do know is I can manage my anxiety and my stress. So in this episode, we're going to be discussing exactly that. How can you prepare your mind for what's about to happen? Or, just to control your stress. Because the worst thing that can do to yourself is losing your sleep on these things, like first of all, there isn't much you can do about, what's happening in the country or in the world. I mean, that would be unrealistic unless you're the president. Well, that's a different story. But there are some things that you can control, and that is your state of mind. So, in this episode, let's talk about this. First off, if you're not already aware of why this is happening, well, it's because, it's not just headline when you see some of these things online on X, Facebook, on the internet. We take these things personally, right? And we think that these things that are happening out there are affecting your life. Sometimes there's also like rage bait over there, but that's a different kind of thing. And when you see these things, alarm systems go off in your head, and your amygdala, which is like a part of your brain which releases a chemical and just, makes you freak out, say danger, uncertainty, and it makes you freak out. And honestly, it's just doing its job. Back in the day, the stress response kept us alive and a tiger was chasing us. But now, the tiger is just metaphorical. And they're showing up in our news feed 24 hours. So if you go out there and on X and you see all these news headlines, or if you go on any place these days on the internet, you see these things, it makes your amygdala jittery. And you can develop generalized anxiety disorder if you do this to yourself for extended periods of time. Like I'm talking years. So yeah. And add to that, like everybody is connected. You're getting probably messages from your friends and families about what's happening. So even when you try to avoid this, you get a message or a ping from somebody else telling you to freak out. And, that's just what happens, right? So look, almost 60% of people, which I think is very conservative estimate, freak out about what's happening in the world, especially the current events, right? The number of spikes during election cycles or financial dips, especially when we have so much, God damn it, what is the word? So much volatility, that's just going to do it for you, right? And we can't just turn it off. So what do we do about this? But before we figure out how to fix this, let's talk about what it does to us. And it will kind of highlight why it's super important for you to do something about this. It doesn't just spoil your mood. It's also physical. Your heart races. It's bad for your cholesterol. I don't know how, but somehow it is. It's certainly terrible for your blood pressure, which is bad for your heart. It also, screws over your sleep and screws up your sleep. And you wake up with a knot in your stomach. Ever have like a debate with somebody where you develop a knot in your stomach or something like that? Yeah, that's cortisol. And it's just running the show, right? And you become jittery. You snap out at your partner or your friend or anybody else. And, when I was in India, I saw people like that. They were all jittery and like snapping on, everybody out everywhere, right? And it's because everything was like stressy over there, right? Everything, like there's so much noise, pollution, people freaking out, and it's just chaotic. And it would be weird. It would be super weird if your cortisol is not doing its work and making you snap out and sending your blood pressure super high. Bottom line is it's just not good for you. It's going to wreck your brain. It's going to wreck your body. And that's just, how it works. It's just how it goes, right? So, step one is recognizing that this is not just a drama, and you're not just trying to avoid the drama, right? So it's a real response to a real challenge. So let's do something about addressing this, right? So now, enough doom and gloom. Let's get to the good stuff. How do we actually deal with this? So in this one, I'm going to highlight 5 practical strategies for you, and or maybe 6, or maybe 4. I don't know. Let's just see. I am terrible at counting, so you just have to keep the count. All right. So first up, control your intake. I'm not saying to bury your head in the sand. I'm just saying stay informed. Maybe check the news first thing in the morning. Some people say check before bed, but I think that's harmful advice because it just ends up, jacking up your blood pressure before your sleep, and it's not really good for your sleep. And try to limit your social media exposure to just 15 minutes a day, right? And you can do that by setting up timers. If you use iPhone, there is a way to limit, access to certain apps. You can do that in settings. I'm sorry, I'm having some hot chocolate. It's my bedtime. And that seems to be very helpful for me. On iOS, I use this, not iOS, on my desktop, I use this a plugin for Chrome called Stay Focus, and it blocks Reddit. It also blocks X, Facebook, and also Instagram. So that's really, really helpful. And, research shows that if you limit your exposure to social media to less than 1 hour a day, it reduces your anxiety. I mean, obviously, right? You're just, not exposing yourself to too much, triggers. The next one would be to ground yourself in the present. And that is super easy to do, right? Your mind might be racing. What if the economy tanks? What if this law passes? Like, I know a lot of immigrants freaked out about Trump. Like, they thought that they were going to get deported, even though they were fully legal. And what was the other act? Laken Riley Act. People were freaking out about that because they were like, well, we're just going to get accused and good to be. I don't know. I don't live in the U.S. So anyway, pull it back now. There's a technique called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, and we have this in The Anxious. If you are a member, you can go ahead and follow that. Basically, it's super simple. You just name 5 things you see, 4 things you touch, 3 things you hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. It sounds simple, but it's like hitting a reset button on your nervous system, right? I tried the other day when I was spiraling about tax season, and it was actually really, really helpful, because you have to do your accounting and all that stuff. Then I realized I could just file a fucking extension. Anyway, so just research yourself, right? Whenever these anxious thoughts comes into your head and you start ruminating, kind of just breaks the pattern, distract yourself. Pattern breaking is super powerful. All of our therapists recommend pattern breaking. The third one would be, move your body, right? I mean, seriously, just 10-minute walk can cut down your stress, like quite a bit. And when you do any kind of physical activity, it boosts endorphins, the feel-good chemicals. So if you're mad about politics, I don't know, just go for a walk, right? And when you're walking, try not to ruminate. Instead, just observe what you see, which is why, I don't recommend walking on a treadmill, even though it's better than nothing. But if you can, go out for a walk outside, unless it's like too cold or like, snowing too much, or you live in some place where walking is just not possible, well, then it's all right. You can do other forms of cardio as well. Some people try Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, some try mixed martial arts, some try something else. It does 2 things. First of all, it boosts endorphins, and it also breaks your pattern. So you ruminate less, and it just distracts you and also grounds you at the same time. So if you're thinking about picking up on one of these things, now would be a good time. Um, okay, so let's see the fourth one, right? Fourth one would be if you are tempting, uh, you know, uh, to hold up when you're stressed out, just talk it out. Call a friend. Vent to a dog. Whatever works for you. Just don't stew it alone, right? There's a cool study from UCLA that says social support literally lowers your cholesterol. So here's what I recommend. Go to calls.theanxious.com. That's CALLS.DEANXIOS.com and talk to one of our AIs. They're extremely, extremely realistic, and they are that you can talk to them. If you're stressed about anything, talk it out. If you're going through a breakup, you can talk it out. If you're going through financial hardship, talk it out. If you're worried about politics, talk it out. It will work. And we've designed this by working with, psychotherapists as well as psychiatrists. We have safety systems in place, and it's a really cool app. Like once you use it, you won't believe that this is not a real person. Of course, not a medical advice, or you should always get your own therapist. So it's not really a therapy either, but it's the closest thing you can get to that. It's amazing. We spent God knows how long building that. So yeah. So once you're at that domain name, it will likely redirect to the correct domain name. So, there's that. There is an app for iOS as well as Android. It's amazing. You got to try it. And once you do, you won't believe how insane it is. Really, I'm so excited to share this with you guys. Okay, now the fifth one is finally, okay, I think this would be the last one. Reframe. This one is a tricky one, but powerful. Instead of, everything is falling apart or this is tough, you can reframe it. I've handled this before. You can handle it. You can feel the fear and do it anyway. It's about resilience, right? It's called cognitive framing. I think most psychologists call it cognitive reframing as well. As a matter of fact, go to the website that I told you about for the app to talk to people. I'm going to have somebody post the link below this episode, wherever it is, so you can just click on it and go there and ask one of whoever, like maybe Tef, maybe Ada, you can talk to them, or maybe John if you want to talk to a dude, or a Blake. Ask them to help you reframe what's happening. Okay? Reframe what's happening. Just ask them, and you'd be surprised how helpful it would be for you. God. Okay. Let's take a quick detour. Can we just laugh for a second? So the other day I saw, somebody talk about this. It was fucking hilarious. Like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if, there is like a nuclear war or something like that between Canada and the United States, of all places? Like, who would have thought that there will be a war between Canada and the United States? Okay, first of all, that's just hilarious. Secondly, it's never going to happen. It's just horseshit. Canada and America are our best friends, and they'll likely be best friends forever. But it's hilarious, If it happens, that would be hilarious. Like, of all the enemies in the world, you're fighting with your best friend. Huh? All right, so look, managing an anxiety in these wild times is important, right? So to recap, limit the noise, ground yourself, move, connect, reframe, and you're not powerless here. You can talk to one of our de-anxious therapy coaches if you feel like talking to somebody, and we can help you out. And I'm talking actual humans, not an AI. Although the AI is pretty good. You should try it. So, yeah. Anyway, let me know what's working for you. Hit me up on X, although I'm not sure if it's a wise idea. Maybe you can email me, wayne@theanxious.com, right? On the next episode, we'll be talking about, breathing and, things to calm yourself down quite instantly. Until then, take a deep breath, maybe a walk, and let's keep navigating this storm together. Thanks for listening. I'm Wayne Harrell, signing off.